Welcome, everyone, and thanks for being here. I'm Jessica Visham, the Director of Communications for the Independent Grocers Alliance, and your trusted moderator for this webinar. We're here to talk about a really important shift happening in grocery right now, how AI is helping independent grocers compete more effectively, not just against each other, but against much larger players. What's interesting is this isn't really about futuristic technology. It's about using tools many of you already have or could easily adopt to solve very real everyday challenges. Things like managing increasingly complex labor schedules, supporting smaller teams, creating better, more personalized experiences for your shoppers. And the key idea we'll explore, it's simple. When you support your employees better, they create better experiences, and that's what drives loyalty and growth. So we'll hear from experts working on both workforce management and customer engagement, and we'll connect those dots into the bigger picture of how independents can use AI as a true competitive advantage. So with that, let's get started. Well, I would like to have everyone introduce themselves. Anthony, why don't we start with you?
Perfect. Yeah. So I'm Anthony Presley. I'm one of the founders of Timeforge, and we're a workforce management company. Been around for a very long time. We started in 2007, which makes us a very old startup. We've gone through a couple of iterations. We sold the company, we bought it back, and we service exclusively restaurants and retailers. And we get to play in a couple of industries, which allows us to see what's going on with a lot of hourly workforce.
Nice. Iran.
And I'm Eran Harel from AppCard. I'm the Senior Vice President of Corporate Development and Strategic Partnerships. And I've been with the company from the very idea stage, joined Yair and Amichai in forming it, and have had the honor and pleasure of being part of the Red Oval Partners Alliance and work with the IGA team as well as with Anthony and the Timeforge team for many years. So thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. It's always exciting to get all of our, well, not all of them, but our Red Oval partners together to kind of work together for the retailers. So, all right, let's do it.
Perfect. So I guess the premise here is really all about AI and grocery. And we wanted to talk a little bit about why now matters. AI has been around for a very long time, probably since back before we had hair. People were working on AI, and really the question is, why is it important right now? And we can get into the deep technical nitty gritties as to what happened in Google and their transformer technology that created the LLMs. But for grocers, really the thing that matters is that margins are tightening. We're trying to figure out how to make more money without adding more headcount. On the workforce side, we've seen a lot of interesting changes since COVID with same-day pay and changes on frontline workers and what they're looking for, where a lot of frontline workers have left the retail industry. And it's becoming a lot more sustainable. It's a lot easier, more accessible. I know Aran and I have had some conversations about building and how much faster you can build product, but the accessibility to these tools has changed drastically, even just in the last 3 months. And then, we've got a lot of competition that has adopted technology and AI and what you're going to do there. My favorite echoing statement, though, that you're going to hear from me most of today is really that third bullet point on the right, though, is the clean data. It's interesting how much AI has changed, but also how much the fundamentals are still the same. And clean data has always been key, but now if you really don't have clean data, you'll find out really fast and you'll make really bad decisions. And then there's a lot going on within the shoppers and the employees and the use of AI and what's acceptable and what their advantages are to being allowed to have other folks use that data. And so just as time marches on and technology becomes more adopted, people become more accepting of it. I think those are probably the key moments, but did I miss anything?
I do believe that you've nailed it there. The one thing that I would probably add is the fact that the right use of AI and the use of the right tools will allow independent grocers to close the gap with the enterprise national super regional grocers that otherwise may have had, due to resources and may have had due to longevity and IT teams, an inherent advantage that with the use of AI can be breached or somewhat closed. And this is obviously very, very exciting, but need to be done diligently and by choosing the right ecosystem and partners to engage with.
I love that. Absolutely love that. I do think it's critical to choose the right business problem also to apply AI to. We've seen a lot of failed projects where an executive screamed, "We need AI to solve this," and then everybody runs around trying to figure out what that means. I would say that generally speaking, at least in my opinion, AI is not a strategy. It's a tactic to solve some sort of a problem. So
let's dive right into it.
Perfect. Let's do it. So I think what we wanted to get across here as Red Oval partners and our organizations all work together, that really AI and being able to manage both your team with AI and serve your customers are really two sides of the same coin, right? I'll talk a little bit about the left side, and then I'll hand this over to talk a little bit about the right side. But really, we've had forecasting for decades. We started Timeforge with the ability to do forecasting. Our forecasting behind the scenes uses some techniques called machine learning. Machine learning is a fundamental technology inside of AI. And so that particular technology has just enhanced over the years. But we have that in our forecasting. We have that in our scheduling. We layer in more AI with the compliance. That starts to get involved in how we engage and become strategic with our front line, with our workers. How do we keep turnover down? And then that ultimately really revolves around training, which I know IGA presses on training. I know that Iran and AppCard team talks about training, and really how you make sure that your associates are serving your customers, because if all of those things are in lockstep, then you have this amazing synergy. I don't like that word, but we'll use it. That synergy that allows your company to excel, which ultimately creates sales and opportunities for you and your team.
And pressing on that, two sides of the same coin, in any relationship that we have, in a way you have a customer. And when one is engaged, whether it is in a relationship of employee and employer, or whether it is in the relationship of a shopper coming to a store, in that engagement, in that relationship, that duality of give and take, that duality of experience, that duality of engagement is what we are trying to solve. Because when we look into our shoppers, when we look into our employees, when we look into our community, they all one of the same. And it is important when we apply any tactics whatsoever to take that into account, because our cashiers and our staff are our best advocates. They come from within. That's what makes the independent so unique, that we service our communities. It is our neighbor's kid who is in the front line, or it is our neighbor who is managing the meat department. And as a result of that, they are the front line, and they are the one that will promote the program and will drive the program from a shopper experience. But at the same time, they also shop at your store. So when we do look into that engagement, we want to make sure that it is always rewarding. It is always simple and easy to engage and to be utilized in order for it to be intuitive. And the AI tools, and Anthony, you were spot on. Machine learning have been here for years. You and I have had a podcast that you've published a couple of years ago when we talked about Pinky, and Pinky by then was 5 years old. So what AI though does is really put it all in the way on steroids, and both in terms of the speed to market, the capabilities that we can do, And of course, the generation of that AI, whether it was for reporting purposes or whether it is now agentic or anything to follow. And the question is, how do we utilize it in order to improve our overall engagement, whether it is with our employees or whether it is with our shoppers?
Love it. Absolutely love it. Let's try the next slide. So on the workforce side, we've got some challenges, right? And I like to say workforce is an evergreen problem because it's the generations may change, but generally speaking, you're dealing with the same things over and over and over again. And unfortunately, like a lot of things in AI, to get the sexy results, you usually have to do some unsexy work. And so you've got to make sure things like your data are clean. But really, it's a lot of change management. It's a lot of working with your team and maybe some new approaches to how that gets done. But you have new challenges now, as I mentioned about COVID made some things different. There was a lot of folks that left the retail industry. There was a lot of folks that retired. And that's created some scheduling problems, right? So groceries always had scheduling difficulty compared to general retail or restaurants where somebody is cross-trained and can run both the produce department and the meat department, or can also be a head cashier. And so you end up with this scheduling complexity that if you're running on close or tight margins, that can create some challenges as soon as somebody calls out and they don't make it, and you have to replace those skills. So those last minute call outs, the last minute changes when you're running a tight ship is a problem. The inverse of that is also true. I had breakfast this morning with an IGA retailer, and we were talking about how Kroger and HEB actually will tighten in and do 6-minute increments of labor. And that may seem a little bit crazy, but that's how they keep the margin in their pocket, is that they're really driving labor around 6-minute increments. I don't know too many independents that are running 6-minute increments because they understand their workforce is trying to make a paycheck and they're part of the community. And so there's a give and take there for sure. That turnover number can be crazy in grocery. It's one of the hardest things to keep under control. You've got an hourly workforce that's driving into work, and they might just decide to get up and leave because they make 25 cents more or even less, but they don't have as long of a drive. We have a lot of independents that are in rural areas, and it's a hard to get and recruit, right? And so then your training costs are high, and you've got this perception of fairness, and all the computer can do a lot of cool things, and then you turns around and you have to have the reality of, hey, no, I had to cut somebody's hours, right? So then you have to have that conversation. And so all of these things are hard, but they're things that the AI can help with, right? So AI can be given a bunch of data, things like certifications, things like who's on time, who's not on time, what are the busiest periods, right? And as those things get brought into the AI algorithm, it can generate an appropriate schedule, which helps drive down the turnover numbers and increases your retention. And the states aren't making it any easier. The labor laws, especially if you're in we'll call it a traditionally blue state, those blue states have a lot of rules, and your managers have to keep up with them. And there's a lot of thresholds. You get above 50 employees or 100 employees. You start to have all kinds of problems with how those get handled, or you get people that work between multiple municipalities. And the complications there with predictive scheduling or fair work week, where you have to predict out 2 weeks out in time or 3 weeks out in time. All of this compounds into a lot of complexities that your management team is probably not that excited about, and they'd rather be restocking a shelf or helping someone in the store. These are excellent problems for AI to solve. We've been doing it a long time, but anytime a computer can be really good at calculations, this is the right place to leverage a computer and let it take that work away. I actually was on a panel last year talking about AI at UT Dallas, and one of the interesting things, a CIO of a very large cinema chain came and actually said that where they found the best use of AI was in doing the things the managers did not want to do manually. Because it turns out if managers enjoy, resetting an end cap or putting up the new advertisements and interacting, those are the things the managers love. Let the managers do those things and let a computer do the things that they don't want to do. Because that by itself, she was saying in her field, and again, Cinemark theaters, had reduced their turnover just by taking away some of the rote duties that no one wanted to do. So
That's a great point, Anthony. Because I feel like so many people, if you are going into the grocery industry, are you going into the grocery industry to wade through labor laws and really understand the complexities of that? No, you're not. So I feel like those are great examples of things that the machine can take over and kind of and handle, so that everybody else the humans do what the humans do best.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? No one started a grocery store chain because they wanted to deal with labor. Like, it's just not a thing that they started, right? Any other thoughts on that slide? I'll move on to the next one. Okay, perfect. Maybe if the click goes. So a little bit of how we use AI, and again, fundamentally, we're back to what, in grocery, what can we forecast, right? Some of the things that have become really easy just in the last 2 or 3 years are things like grabbing weather. So pulling in weather data for all of your stores, right? Pulling in events, like events that happen near and around your stores. Do those have an impact? Sometimes they're positive effects, sometimes they're negative effects. But and then you have the random events, right? Somebody pulls up with a school bus, there was a tournament somewhere else, and they drop off 50 kids that all want to buy snacks and a sandwich, right? That happens. That's a random item. AI can actually do a good job of dealing with some randomness and how you want to predict the sales so that you can drive your forecasts. You've also got all kinds of things, since we play in the restaurant space and a lot of grocers are working with prepared foods. How do you do, what kind of prepared foods you're going to sell? What's your menu mix going to be? Do you have enough labor there? Those peripheral departments, which you make a lot of margin in, whether or not that's meat or prepared foods and floral, that kind of thing. You have your highest cost of labor in those departments as well. So really want to drive and predict the sales in those departments, matching that to your demand. And then you end up with what we call our auto scheduler. And our auto scheduler is looking at all the history, all the data, all those Excel spreadsheets, all the sticky notes, all the certifications, food safety, you name it, union rules, bringing all of that together into one cohesive decision, if you will. And then using and leveraging the AI to go calculate that up and produce the best schedule. I have never, in 20 years of doing this, I have never once had a retailer that ran through our auto scheduler and was like, oh, I have too many people. Like, that's just never happened one time. But it can often come up and go, hey, you might want to hire 2 or 3 people because, this is what's going on. We can even surface some fun things. I was having a conversation with a retailer the other day that mentioned just change management around their organization that they were so used to, because their dad had always hired employees. And when they hired the employees, they told them when they were going to work. And so, like, you have to work on Saturday and Sunday. And then it turned out over the last couple of years, their turnover was really high. And so she had implemented a process by where she would go, hey, if you just want to work on Saturday, like, we'll just hire you to work on Saturday. And so by changing that, allowing the employees to drive a little bit of that, which those preferences our software can understand, we can actually drive and reduce the turnover, a couple little tweaks in here and there. And then again, that auto scheduler's built a nice, beautiful schedule that AI is then generating and enforcing the schedule. Things like certifications, things like you're supposed to be there at 4 p.m. If you show up at 3:30, you don't get to clock in unless you're allowed to because of a state rule, and then all of the breaks and rule enforcement. We've got AI layers for all of that at this point in the game, and it's going to make sure that your team is doing exactly what they're supposed to do. Because this is where you get a surprise at the end of the week or at the end of the quarter, is that you blew your labor budget and it's too late. There's nothing you can do about it. So this, again, leveraging AI for real-time calculations and real-time functionality is really what we want to do and surface for you. Any other thoughts there before I move to the next slide? Love it.
I love it.
Okay. So all of that ends up being some sort of a real world impact. Like I said earlier, we want technology to drive real world something, right? There's a task, there's a P&L line we want to drive. And so we want to reduce tardiness and no-shows, right? There's a lot of pieces inside the software giving AI feedback. One of my favorite pieces inside of our software allows folks to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to a shift. I don't know why they didn't like the shift, and we're not going to necessarily ask them. We do have surveys. We could ask them, but they give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. It's kind of like leaving a 5-star review on Google or Yelp. And the interesting thing is our software will figure out and build those reviews and go in, and now it creates a schedule, and it knows, hey, for whatever reason, Anthony always gives a thumbs down on Thursday mornings because maybe he goes out and has a pickup basketball game Wednesday night or whatever the reason is. But the software will figure out to stop scheduling Anthony on Thursday mornings if possible. But that reduces the no-shows and the tardiness, and suddenly we have the right people in the right spots at the right time for the labor. Again, a little bit of AI. We can build...
And that's labor retention.
That's it, right? That's what we're driving for here. And now you've got those amazing folks in the store. They're happy to be there. They know what they're expected to have done while they're there at the store. And now they're giving great customer success, great customer service, which is ultimately what we're trying to drive to here.
And I think that when we talk about real world impact, you've said something that I think we should emphasize over and over and over again, which is the integrity and the cleanliness of the data. And in that regard, bringing both worlds into one and having integrations with the rewards program, with other elements of engagement. So making it easy and simple when you have a new employee, if you have an employee rewards, an employee discount program on the other side of the shopper engagement, that the onboarding and the offboarding is done seamlessly. And making sure that shoppers are eligible to whichever they need to, that is reflected on the shopper side, because an employee that would come to work with a smile and will have less of those thumb down and more of those thumbs up will be reflected in the smile and in the customer service that they will be offering their shoppers. So having that ability from a real world impact of integrating and bringing all of those into the mix in order to ensure that we have a seamless experience, super important.
I love it.
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about this, so Ron doesn't know this as part of our product at this point, but we actually are now pulling in Yelp and Google reviews and actually being able to pull that in so that we can go, hey, look, this is where we're trending up or down, 5-star reviews, 4-star reviews. Those matter to being found in Google. But a lot of folks go to the nearby grocery store because they can, but we can start to pull that data in, correlate that with your sales data, correlate that with happy or not happy shoppers, and try and drive those reviews up, which turns out, back to what Aaron was saying, like it then turns your sales up. Like that's what you want to do. Happy.
Which is super important and essential because we all know that shoppers have and oftentimes may split their trip into a couple of stores, one that really specializes in their produce and meat and the other one maybe for center store. So being able to capture as much as we can of that share of wallet at our store is what we want, and this is all part of it. So great insight there.
Love it. Love it. All right, let's go on just one more slide here. I'm going to hand it over.
Yep. So obviously, shopper engagement is what makes the difference. And shopper engagement can be influenced by anything and everything, from the cleanliness of the store, from the assortment, from the lighting, from the do we have music at the store? Do we not? Do we have a shopper engagement program and a rewards program or not? And the bottom line is, as independent grocers, is for us to really know and understand our shoppers. And oftentimes, even though this may be a smaller community, if Jessica, you stopped buying at the store for whatever reason, it will take a long time for the store owner, manager, to know that you disappeared. So, with that being said, is how can we create and turn those anonymous shoppers into a frequent member? How we can simplify the way shoppers are engaged? How we can make that data actionable in order to ensure that if you're crazy, not liking chocolate like myself, you won't get an offer on the chocolate because you've never bought it, right? So making sure that shoppers do get a relevant offer and the right promotion in order to drive and increase repeat purchase, and staying top of mind when and where items are concerned, when and where we talked about splitting the trip in between couple and ensuring that we capture that share of wallet. So if we go to the next, and we talk about AI and we talk about the engagement of that shopper, then the use of AI, and we've talked about it from a Pinky standpoint, and we've talked about it from a shopper engagement. It's all about ensuring that we remain relevant to our shoppers. And some may know AppCard as a loyalty platform. We actually don't believe in loyalty. The reason I'm saying that is that shoppers that enroll into your program is not necessarily a loyal customer. Only if we are able to build a relationship and entice behavior that results with their increase of their recency, the frequency, the monetary spend, and doing it with the right offer at the right touch point, this is when we will earn the shopper loyalty. So with such, we need to make sure that we make that data actionable in order to design the right rewards and identify the shopper and make it easy and simple. And most importantly, in today's world, do it at the shopper's preferred touch point. We'll have programs that are mobile app only. We'll have programs that, as such, may exclude Mrs. Smith, who is 75, because she will never download an app. Or we have legislation such as in Illinois or in San Diego, where you have to have the ability to make digital coupons available in store. Otherwise, you're not allowed to do it. So the first thing is to design something that is easy, simple, super intuitive, and fun for the shopper to engage, but addresses 100% of the shoppers. The second thing is that as we capture the data and we know who the shopper is, and we know of their preferences, and we understand of their household, whether by asking survey or otherwise, or by joining household, or alternatively by simply knowing and understanding their basket, making use of AI, making use of machine learning in order to analyze that basket and hence design the right promotions for these shoppers. That's when personalization come into place and allows us to really provide that right offer to the right shopper at the right touch point. And the greatest example for it would be, for example, toilet paper. I buy one every 3 weeks. I bought it yesterday. There's no reason in the world why in my coupon or promotions I will see toilet paper the first in line as I bought it yesterday. It will be counterintuitive. It will almost be to the extent of annoying, because you know that I bought it yesterday. So I would definitely don't want to be in a situation where I'll encourage the shopper to go and return it in order to gain the $1 off. It's a hassle. So providing the right offer, providing the right promotion, making use of that data, and being able to do and make use of that data in a way that is simple and intuitive. And what do I mean by that? We can automate a lot of promotions and campaigns and allow those automation to notify a shopper that he or she has 35 points due to expire in a week, and send them that, which will bring them into the store for yet an unplanned visit. And hey, from a shopper engagement, we just drove an additional trip to the store. Alternatively, as we know and understand frequency of purchases and habits and liking, we can do that, but we can also do a lot of things that are ad hoc. And we've had a great example of an IGA member a couple of years ago when we were on a webinar together, when he mentioned that they've bought 300 lobsters too many from a merchandising standpoint. And what he did, he was just able to go into the tool and target everybody who bought in their seafood department and or bought lobster, and send them a text. And guess what? 2.5 hours after, they had no lobsters in both of their stores.
Wow.
It's phenomenal, and when we see it day in and day out, that ability to personalize that engagement, not only by what they purchase, but also the touch point that they prefer to be communicated with, makes all of the difference in the world. And when AI is concerned, it just makes it easier. So on the Ask Pinky tool that we've rolled out to our grocers, I can go in, which is a complete chatbot tool that allows the grocers to query anything and everything about their business from a data perspective. But also, with the coming Memorial Day, I can go in and ask Pinky, with the upcoming Memorial Day, what would you recommend of items that should be on sale? And Pinky will do that. Interestingly enough, just ahead of Valentine's Day, we've done the same with Pinky, and Pinky was really in the very early stages of it. And we asked Pinky, what are their recommendations? Interestingly enough, there was chocolate and there were flowers and there were things. And then all of a sudden there were, for a couple of our grocers, not all, because Pinky knows what they sell, it recommended a lottery ticket, which was showing that AI can also think out of the box, because this is a surprise and delight. Think about it. You just bought someone for Valentine's a lottery ticket or a scratch card, and they won. And hey, you've done the best memorable Valentine's Day in this regard. So with Ask Pinky, having the ability to ask, to predict, to then fully automate and the offer creation, that makes life easier. So if we go to the next, then those are just a few examples. So we've talked about the ease of use, right? So the AppCard NTR, being able to address and engage with 100% of our shoppers. We've seen significant sales for those that are members versus non-members. With the acquisition of Shop to Cook, we have the in-store kiosk that allows for those more experienced, more savvy shoppers that may not necessarily download an app or go to the website ahead of the planning. We've seen and we've analyzed, interestingly enough, 469 stores that had AppCard and Shop to Cook prior to our acquisition of Shop to Cook. And what we've seen was an increase of $1,800 for the stores that have had AppCard and Shop to Cook from engagement in the kiosks, as opposed to the stores that did not have it. So being able to really engage with the shoppers, and speaking of AI, presenting the right recipes to the shoppers,
Right.
whether it is based on dietary constraints, whether it is based on past purchase, whether it is seasonality, and allowing to do that. And of course, in terms of promotions and automating, so we now have customer journey promotions that we run, and we've had a great promotion recently. And what we've seen is that when you create a customer journey, you can start by doing 50 for a shopper, and then shoppers that took advantage of it will automatically be triggered by another promotion, as opposed to those that did not will be triggered with a completely different promotion. So we've seen significant increase in that, and AI has a lot of or machine learning has a lot to do in the way we design and execute and approach that. And last but not least, which is not AI related, but it is shopper experience, it is, where do we communicate with our shoppers? And the answer is anywhere and everywhere. And the aisle is very important. And as such, we've had a great example with a 3 location in the Minnesota market. We've done a shelf tag program with them, and we've seen about 29% higher item movement for those items that have had a shelf tag next to them. So being able to talk, communicate, it's all about that human connection. So being able to communicate, whether it is visually, whether it is through text and email, whether it is even through the NTR and saying, hey, this is Jessica, and she's a lost shopper. She haven't been with us for a while. And training, and Anthony talked about it earlier, training. Then training the cashier to say, hey, when you see lost shopper on the NTR, say, hey, Jessica, we haven't seen you for a while. How have you been? And giving that personal connection. So those are just real world, simple examples, but those that makes a huge, huge difference.
Well, and it's a great example, or they're both great examples of, again, we are talking about machine learning and AI, but this is still where the human touch comes back, right? And I feel like whenever we talk about AI or machine learning or LLMs, it's very common for a lot of people to say, like, to first become fearful, right? If the less you know about it, the more fearful you might be, and then realizing, no, we're not replacing humans. We are just making everything more efficient and making the humans available to do the things that humans do best, and to humanize things, and to make things, to personalize things. I love that example of saying, where you get the lost shopper notification saying, hi, Jessica, you haven't been here in a while. It's good to see you again. That goes such a long way. I can't even describe what a long way that would be, right? Like,
And when we talk about AI, and you nailed it in terms of fear, and we also know that a lot of our really trusted partners may not necessarily be as tech savvy, and oftentimes when we've had softwares that have had very, very clear rules, what you need to do and how you need to do it and how you need to treat things. What we've done with Ask Pinky, for example, is that you ask Pinky the question in your own natural language. And you can utilize it based on your terminology, and utilize it in how you approach things, and you would still get the answer. And Pinky knows to understand what you mean by saying this or that. Or, by the way, when you have, because you type really, really fast, you may have a spelling mistake or whatever have you. So knowing to make life easier and still give you the answer, despite the fact that people here in the East Coast will call something completely different than in the South, or completely different in the West Coast.
Pop soda.
For example.
Cola.
Yeah.
So making sure that we allow you to really engage with the AI as if you are in a normal day-to-day conversation, as opposed to rigid terminology that the software requires.
Right. Yeah, that's especially important for the people who are, the people who might be nervous to use the technology, right? You don't have to, don't worry, the technology is there for you. It's meeting you where you're at.
Yeah. I love the example of the lobster. Like that's a fantastic, fantastic way to take the data, drive a promotion, find the right folks, get that promotion out the door. And then probably on the back end, there was some training and some team communication, like, hey, we're about to move 300 lobsters or whatever the number is. And like, we're going to have to, everybody needs to be in the loop, right? So it's, one business decision that drove both sides of the coin again.
And the ease of use in creating that promotion.
Yep.
So they didn't need us to go and call us and say, hey, that's what I want to do. They can go into the tool, they can do it by themselves and execute. But speaking of promotion and speaking of labor, we also see a very high correlation in between retention of employees and engagement of employees with employee discount or employee engagement program and the tenure of those employees and the thumbs up or thumbs down that they will be receiving. And that's something that is also important to mention. So while we've engaging and maybe closing a little bit to the earlier remarks in terms of those two sides of the coin, the important is that we engage our employees just as much as we engage our guests, and that will reflect on tenure, that will reflect on retention, that will reflect on the service and service level that they will extend to the guests and the shoppers at the store.
Yeah, that's a great call out. We'll get into it in a minute. I'll bring up an example. Another one of our guys had mentioned, which I thought was interesting. Would you like me to go to the next slide here, talk a little bit about the kiosk?
Let's do that.
Okay.
So as mentioned, we've acquired Shop to Cook earlier this year, and we are extremely excited of that, bringing that into the family. So adding to the already very rich shopper engagement, maybe the two missing links, a website and an in-store kiosk, whether it is for the sake of compliance and whether it is for the sake of really and completely addressing 100% of our shoppers. So as mentioned earlier, making sure that the in-store engagement is one that starts from the moment you enter the door, and you can go into the kiosk and you can see you can enroll into the program, and you can key in your phone number and clip your coupons. And by the way, print all of those as a shopping list that now when you walk the aisle, there may be items that you didn't plan on, as we saw with the $1,800 increase in revenue per store. There will be items that I did not plan on buying, but hey, there's a coupon for this and a coupon for that. Let me clip it, let me print it, and then go to the aisle. Another thing is that there's 6,500 kitchen tested recipes. And I can go and I can choose a recipe because I host a party or I have friends over and I don't even know what I want to do. I can go in and I can see it based on the categories. I can choose that recipe. And again, it will print out the whole recipe. So now I can go and I can walk the aisles and buy and make sure that I have everything I need for that recipe and the party that I'm about to host. So we've brought in the kiosk into the AppCard family. It will be down the road managed through AMS, which is really becoming our all-encompassing merchant site. Is becoming not just a platform, but a real operating system where you can manage your mobile app and you can manage your promotions and your coupons and everything associated. The kiosk will go into that as well, and ensuring that we also, for Illinois, for the San Diego, as well as other states, bring and make sure that the stores are in full compliance.
Love it. Are you leveraging AI with the recipes at this point?
Not at the moment, but we've acquired Shop to Cook 4 months ago.
Yeah.
Give us a couple more and
no pressure whatsoever.
Like, I can't tell you.
Yeah.
We have plans, probably.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Let's just say that one of our most recent platforms that we are launching, in that platform, there's 0 human line of codes.
Yes, you and I talked a little bit about that previously. Yeah, no, it's exciting. It's very exciting. AI. Well, let's talk maybe a little bit about happy employees and happy customers, because if you've got this, we'll call it this virtuous circle, right? That's what consultant speak is here for this circle. Happy shoppers, you get better schedules. You know what's going on. You get more engaged staff. You're doing better with the service. One of the things we haven't mentioned is very interesting, which is that your most frequent shoppers are often a great source for job seekers. You know, you've got a job that you're trying to fill. Your folks that are shopping at your stores, it's a great way to go find somebody to help you out with your organization. Um, the other thing I would say is that reviews, usually online, are often a lagging indicator. So you're looking for AI to help you with the in the moment kind of thing. Google does all kinds of fun things with how they will delay posting so that you don't know who it is, and they're doing some interesting things there. So restaurants, that's been a loop that's been going on for a very, very long time, trying to figure out, oh, I got cold chicken. Who do I go? How do I go fix that? So anything we can do with AI to help on the front end, keeping everybody in the same loop is really what we want to do.
All right. So, as we've kind of gone through today, we've talked a lot about how engaging employees and engaging customers kind of it all works together in this collaborative cycle or circle, as you see here. So, can you talk a little bit more about how that all works together and how maybe a collaboration between AppCard and Timeforge would work to almost encourage
Absolutely. I think that's a great
that
segue over
collaboration?
to our next slide here, to talk about how two reputable partners work together. This is a integration we did. I want to say it was last year in early 2025, may have been the end of 24, but we've talked a little bit about strategically keeping your employees happy and how those programs can be utilized to provide employee discounts and other types of tiered programs for your team members. But inevitably administering it is a problem. You end up with somebody who has to remember to go into different programs, turn them on, turn them off. And in reality, we can tie those together between AppCard and Timeforge, so that when an employee gets added, they are automatically enabled inside of AppCard. And when that employee may move on to other employment, they're automatically removed, which is a fantastic benefit to be able to offer your employees, and it's fully automated.
I, and just to add on that, I think as we've talked about making the data clean and work for you, we also need to remember that there are, by the end of the day, three things that are important for our grocers. It's increased sales, lower cost, and the most important resource, which is time. And what this integration and this collaboration offers is that seamless um, in interoperability of AppCard and Timeforge in order to simplify the way that we onboard employees, we offboard employees, we make sure that employees are rewarded and receive what they need to get, but sometimes more importantly, they get only what they are supposed to get, and not more than that, which is important by itself. So, with that being said, um, being able to help save that time, being able to make sure that we automate, being able to ensure that nothing falls in between the crack, and we are there to automate it. That's what the simplicity of the integration brings to the table. And when done right, that's your vicious cycle of happy employee, happy customers, results in increase in sales.
Well, let me jump over here. We've talked a lot about um, impacts on shopper engagement with the engaged team members, so I'm not going to belabor that point very much here. Let's talk instead kind of next around AI and maybe open up any questions, Jessica, that you've got. Um, Perfect. Um,
Great.
yeah, I mean, everybody can read probably as fast as Iran and I can talk through all of this, but really all the stuff that you want to pay attention to for where AI is going, training and skill enforcement, all of the integration. You'll probably hear things like a single pane of glass. That's tech speak for making sure you can get to your data. Um, forecasting and store level improvements, using personalization to close the loop on your shoppers and your team members. Decision making assistance, right? We've talked a little bit about Pinky, Ask Pinky, and how that might be able to be used by your store and your store managers. And then there's the what to ask. You can read all those on the right, but that's really some of that's really table stakes for tech tools that have emerged in the last 10 or 20 years, even. Anything else? Any questions?
And I think that when we talk about AI, even though the subject of our today's webinar is on shopper engagement and employees engagement, AI can and will be part of anything and everything at the store. Whether it is further managing your refrigeration, and whether it is in terms of forecasting not just on the employees but what to order, and whether it is to automate uh, your interaction with your wholesaler, and whether it is to do design and marketing, and how to go to market with making sure that you utilize these tools in order to have a consistent brand awareness. So while what I would like to encourage everybody listening to this webinar is not only to focus on just those two things that we've talked about today, but keep their ears open and their minds open to understand how they can leverage AI in order to be better operators altogether.
That's a great point. I do have a few questions for you gentlemen, if that is all right. One of the questions I have is what do you think is the most common misconception that independent grocers have about AI
Ooh,
right now from
that's a
what you've
great
seen?
question. You want to take that first? Yeah.
That's good.
Sure. I think that one of the greatest misconceptions that grocers have is that AI will do everything for them and they can stop doing things altogether, which is not the intention. The intention of AI is to help and simplify and shorten time and allow you to do more within given resources available. The second thing that there's a misconception is that by utilizing AI, you give up or away of your data or the secrecy of your data or things of that nature. And when using the right tools, that shouldn't be a concern. And in here, you should definitely consult with your trusted advisors, with your vendors that you work with day in and day out, as they will be able to help you navigate throughout it. And with that being said, I think that making sure that you are aware of it, because there's many grocers that we talk with that will take all of the data and put it on ChatGPT or put it on Gemini and whatnot, which are either free or open, and then they are at risk. So just making sure that from a misconception or the true reality is that they utilize AI with the sense of responsibility that is necessary, and they set the right expectations.
That's a great point, especially in just making sure that when you're using it in a secure
Absolutely.
way.
I agree. I agree with both of those, but I wanted to highlight a little bit of that first one. It's we have a lot of grocers that come and go, well, AI should just solve this. AI should just solve that. And it's I think there's a lot of buzz or hype around everything that AI can do, and I think it's important to remember that AI fundamentally is really a set of algorithms or ways to process data behind the scenes. And so the more random the data you give it, which you want to do inside of a trusted vendor, a protected resource where your data doesn't get leaked into larger training models, or it doesn't show up on the internet somewhere. But the more specific the data you give it, back to our conversation about how data cleanliness matters, and the more specific a question you ask, the more accurate the data is. And that's very similar maybe to a POS report. Like if you just say, hey, what are my sales? It could give you sales for the week, the month, for all departments. For one department, it could be all over the place. Whereas if you go, no, I really want to know what my sales were in my fresh department, my produce department on Thursday from 12 to 12:15, like suddenly you've given it a very confined window. And so if your data is not at the level that you're looking for, and if the questions you're asking it are not at the level you're looking for, you end up with data that does this thing that drives me up a wall for just a terminology, but it'll hallucinate. And it's not actually hallucinating. It's giving you a mathematically correct answer. You just asked a really broad question, or your data is broader. And so it's doing the best it can with the math on the back end, doing an average essentially. And so, really AI is never a strategy. It's always a tactic. And I think that's the biggest thing we see.
And couldn't agree more. I think that the proof is in the prompt as opposed to the pudding. So making sure that we always have what is it that we want to get, what is the time frame, for what purpose, and in what form and fashion we want to get the data. Is it a table? Is it a graph? Is it a pie chart? Is it just text? So as long as we follow those rules of what do we want, how do we want it, for what time frame, and for what purpose, that will allow for more accurate results received from any AI tool.
Sure. Now, I have another kind of a follow-up question on this for you. We've talked a lot about clean data, right? We've used that term a lot today. It's kind of a two-part question. What is clean data for the retailers who don't know? And how clean does a grocer's data have to be before AI starts paying off, or before they can start really using it without hallucinating?
Right? I'll give just an answer around the workforce data. My name's Anthony Presley. If you give me an employee file that says Anthony for some rows of data, and some rows say Tony, and some say AP, and some say Anthony Presley, it's going to have a very hard time putting that all together that that's the same guy, right? And we've seen this for years in grocery data, especially when you think about the inventory data, the purchasing data. How clean is that data? Employee records in general, on the workforce side, you can get away with generally with getting that data reasonably accurate. So it needs to be accurate enough to ask the questions you want to ask of it. If it's not clean enough to ask those questions, then you'll end up with these hallucinations. But fun fact, before AI, back when we had, analytics tools and query tools and reporting tools and dashboards and those kinds of things, it was the same answer. You had to have data in as clean of a format as you wanted to be able, and as granular of a format as you wanted to be able to retrieve it. I think that's true for customer data and sales data, but open to hear the answer here.
No, 100%. I think that if the store has everything in the register pointing to deli, or you have bananas in 5 different departments in your item file, then when you want to do a query about the performance of sales by category, all of a sudden you see bananas across the board. So in a way, the tools that we have today, starting from those analytical tools that Anthony mentioned earlier, but into AI as well, forces us to be more organized. And I think that as long as we are organized, as someone who sees 100% of the transactions, we don't see just the rewards and loyalty, and hence we provide data based on 100% of the transactions, most of our grocers are in a great shape or in an improved shape over time. But this is an opportunity, like anything in life. And if we were, or if we have had more challenges finding out those points of improvement previously, with AI, we will see it immediately. And that will help us by itself to go ahead and clean the data at the source. That in turn will provide us with better data. Um, so again, turning a potential downfall into an opportunity is that's what we want to see as part of our growth.
Okay, that makes sense. I've got a couple other questions, but I don't want to keep
Okay.
us too long, so I'm going to rapid fire this, okay? So see if you can give me a one sentence response, if possible, for a few of these questions. So, first one is for a grocer who's never deployed AI before. What is the right first project? Where should they start?
Join
Nailed
AppCard.
it. Yeah. Put in Timeforge. Put in
Cool.
either one. Either one. Yeah.
AppCard.
Mic drop.
Okay.
No, yeah, Ask Pinky is built and designed for the independent grocers. And what we've been doing there is that we have already preset prompts, and those prompts lead to following prompts. And even when you ask something, it understands what you want to query and will guide you with additional questions to further dive into the data. So, like anything we do, we design it with the independent, busy operator in mind, and as such, received great feedback.
I would tell you to start with what I mean. I'd love for you to start with one of our products, but really, you should start with where you have a business problem. You're trying to solve a problem. You're trying to increase sales. You're trying to reduce turnover. You're trying to, whatever, get more customers in the door. Whatever that is, start there, and then find the right tool that probably has AI in it and apply it.
Okay. Another question is what piece of data inside a grocer's existing system that what is that piece of data that they probably are not using, but AI could turn it into gold
Training manuals.
or even just
You
something
have
good?
tons and tons of training manuals or SOPs that were either provided by your team or your manufacturers of various pieces of equipment. Load those all up into a document repository, put a $20 a month paid Claude or something at it, and now your employees can ask it
Hmm.
questions, and on how to do things, and it'll write your training manuals for you. Easy, low lift.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. Iran?
Shrink, loss prevention,
Yeah.
uh, something that over time leads for a lot of lost revenue, and shrink, out of stock. These are things that definitely AI can help
Yeah.
better manage.
Yeah, that's yeah, just run it because it can just run the data and tell you where you're losing and where the opportunity is, right? Okay, last one. What is one thing that AI is still bad at in grocery where like a human absolutely has to be involved and make the
Mm.
call?
I'm going to say that you really need to double, triple, and quadruple check anything relating to compliance. So, food safety, we're talking food
Good
safety, we're
call.
talking workplace safety, we're talking um, workplace violations. So, any of the overtime kinds of things. You have one or two small hallucinations at each step or each day or each shift, and you end up with a very compounding problem. And so I would say those are things that can come back and haunt you for 4 or 5 or 10 years later.
Good point.
Here's a funny
Yeah.
story. If you go to ChatGPT and you ask it how to choose a watermelon, it will talk about the shape of it, and it will talk about the color. It will talk about everything else. And if you follow that, you have only ChatGPT to complain to.
Okay.
There are things in life like listening to the watermelon and the sound of it, which ChatGPT cannot do. You know, that when you choose your watermelon, whether it will be really sweet or not. So there are small things like this that ChatGPT or AI can suggest or hallucinate that it can suggest, but
Mhm.
things that choosing your produce or choosing your meat, that will never be done by, or at least not for now, done by AI, unless it will be droids that will do it for us.
Right. Iran, it's funny that you use that example because one of our partners is the National Watermelon Board, and they tell us how to choose watermelon. So
There you go.
if anybody who is watching this is curious, you can just search in IGA.com how to find the best watermelon. And we should probably make sure that we push that out on social media for all of the shoppers
Love it.
with summer coming up, right?
100%.
Add it to my
Love it.
list. Um, all right. Well, thank you both for all of this, for sharing your expertise, for the very healthy discussion on this. I hope that everyone who has attended has a better idea of where we're at with AI in grocery, where it's going, and how you can either get started if you haven't yet, or how you can kind of you start taking it to the next level to make everything more efficient, but also remember that it's never going to replace humans, and it's never going to be the best way to pick a watermelon. So, if you do have further questions, you can always email whoever your favorite contact at IGA, and we'll make sure that we get the right answer to you. Or in when we run an article on this, we'll go ahead and put access to our contact form as well. So you can just use that too to reach out to us if you'd like. And thank you to everyone who has attended, and thank you
Thank
to our
you. No,
guests.
likewise. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Anthony.